Okay, so my individual goals that I set for week 1 were to use more non-examples. I use quite a bit of examples, but the non-examples thing throws me off. I was afraid that my students would take the non-example as the example, get confused, and then do it all wrong. But as I learned, that's not the case. I also set goals to do more like exit slip things and collect data and review their scores more. So my reflection on those goals is I did reach them. I was able to use non-examples. It didn't confuse my students. It actually helped, which, I mean, obviously that's what the point of this was, but I was afraid, and it actually turned out to be a good thing. So now I'm able to use examples and non-examples, and they are able to understand the difference between the two. And also, I started to use exit slips in my classroom, and the exit slips are no longer than 1 to 3 questions and last no longer than 3 minutes in order to finish. And this tells me the accurate count of who understands the material, who needs a little more practice. And when I collect them and go through them, I'm able to put them in different piles. I always count them up and put percentages in them. I take that percentage to my grade level meetings every week, and my principal really appreciates the fact that I do that. I'm able to see what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and if I need to redo it, reteach it, mastery level, if it's there or not, who's below level, who's almost there, and that data really helps. So I was able to reach those 2 goals that I set in week 1, and I will continue to create new goals and continue to reflect on them as the weeks go by. Okay, so important reading strategies is, to get all the students participating. I'll use active participation. I like to use the think, pair, share, but I find that if they are sharing for too long, then they get off topic, they have a conversation. Also, if we do it too many times in a row, then they'll always go back to that conversation and kind of forget about what we're doing. So I like to only use think, pair, share every so often because they're catching on with the conversation thing. They like to talk. I also like to use whiteboards, or we have like clear plastic sleeves in my class, and I just put a white piece of paper in the middle so it looks like a slate. But my students love using the expo markers. Anytime I pull them out, they know what's going to come, and they get very excited. They all want to participate. They all put everything away on their desk, their hands on their desk, and they're ready for me to pass everything out. So if I obtain this brisk pace teaching, they don't have time to draw or doodle, which I was always afraid of, that they'll just, forget about me and start drawing. So I will tell them at the very end of the lesson, if we can get through what we need to get through without me having to stop to correct behaviors, the last 2 to 3 minutes at the end of the lesson, you guys can have time to draw or doodle. And that reinforcement gives them something to work towards and look forward to, and they're all about it. So working at a brisk pace gives them time at the end to doodle, and also gives me the affirmation that they don't have time to draw and doodle during my activity and my lesson. So yeah, it just keeps them moving. They love the activities where I can label parts of the room. So maybe in the back I'll put a word, in the front I'll put a word, over on the side I'll put a word, and on the other side I'll put a word. And then whatever the topic is, I'll ask a question, and they'll have to, almost like the 4 corners, they'll have to decide which answer is correct and go and stand where they are. It's a way for me to actually gather data too, because I can see who goes where, who's leading, who's following, who actually knows, who's going quickly, who's kind of, taking their time and figuring it out. So this gets them moving around, this gets them participating, gets some energy out since they're walking, and it also gives me data, which I love. All right, so those are my important reading strategies. Also, we are encouraged as our school and our district to always have our lesson plans right next to us at all times. If someone from district walks in, they need to see us arm's length, arm's length away from our lesson plans at all times. So in order for me to remember how to do that, or when to do this, or add it in here, do this lesson here, I just put it straight on my lesson plans when I'm creating them. And then as I read through my lesson plans, I know, okay, do this, this, and this. This is the activity. This is what I want to do. Hand this out and go from there. So we're always using our lesson plans. So I put it right in there. I don't need to make little notes or anything. It's already there for me. All right, successes and challenges. So for my successes, during active participation activities, I find that all my students are participating, and I have a lot of students who like to fidget and they get distracted easily. So with active participation, they stay attentive and they're able to stay with the class. Staying at a brisk pace is definitely something I thought was going to be a disaster, but I thought I was going to lose all the students. They were going to fall behind because of this brisk pace, but I was definitely pleasantly surprised at how many students are able to keep up, work efficiently, do the work, and not have side conversations. That's a big one in my class, is conversations. During the lessons and the work time, they don't talk because they know that if they do that, they fall behind, and I will not slow down to make sure that they can get back on track. So they've learned, it took a couple of weeks, but they've learned that this is the pace we go and this is what you need to do, and if you don't do it and don't keep up, then you will fall behind, and that causes a lot of stress with these little kids. If they fall behind, they'll automatically just shut down and give up. So I need to make sure that they all have learned to keep up. Challenges, that was a challenge, but now it's a success because they've learned it. They've learned my pace. But challenges I have mainly come from the above level students and the below level students. The in-middle kids are fine, but my above level students, they get bored with the work sometimes because they're so advanced that they'll either finish the work quickly, or it just gets boring for them, too repetitive, because they don't need the practice on said practicing materials. And then on the very opposite spectrum, my below level kids, it's almost like it's too hard for them. They can't keep up, and then they check out because it's too hard. We're moving too quickly. They fall behind, and they just kind of give up on themselves. So my personal challenge, is that I need to find a way to be able to differentiate work during whole group activity. I don't know if that's possible. I'm still trying to figure it out if I have to just break them up and do activities with each group individually. But whole group activities and instruction is important. So I'm trying to figure that out for my own personal challenge. So lastly, I just wanted to go over my active participation strategy cards super quick. I put them in order here. I have strategies on this side, when to use it right here, and steps to remember, and they go across here as so. I can print this out and put it on my desk or my table. In my, I'll show you the rest. In my lesson plans, I'll fold them kind of in there, or any papers that I have on my paperwork, I'll have that there. For subs, I love this. I print it out, I put it with my sub work, and either highlight, what I want them to do and what it means. And this actually helps a lot with writing lessons too. So I have think, pair, share, study, tell, help, check, think and write. I have pause and procedure, and then I have look, lean, and whisper. And I'm not going to go through everything for time purposes, but yes, I love this. I love how I created it. I add to it also. I know I only have one page now, but I continuously add to it what works, what doesn't work, what I like, and what I want to maybe put for the sub. I'll put a new one on here, something that I already know. I don't need kind of a card for it, but a sub might. That would also be added at the bottom if I needed it to be.